Hello, and welcome to your next lesson. Today, we will create a pivot table based on a large number of records. Today's data has over 50,000, which is perfect for creating a pivot table. We'll also take a look at the Pivot Table Analyze tab as well as the Design tab. These tools are only accessible when we are working within the pivot table, as today's video will demonstrate. Please open the Pivot worksheet and go to the COVID tab to follow along in this lesson. Okay, so here we are on our spreadsheet, and I would like to tell you a little bit about our data. As indicated during our intro, today's data has over 50,000 records. This data comes from the CDC website and is based on records for COVID-19 during the month of January 2021. It only reflects the numbers of patients who were hospitalized as a result of COVID-19. Having said that, let's go ahead and create our table. Let's place our cell inside of anywhere on the table. Now let's go ahead and say Insert. Next, we'll go ahead and select Pivot Table. And we'll say New Worksheet and go ahead and say OK. Okay, as you can see, a new worksheet has opened. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our options. We have the month of January, we have status, sex, age group, race, hospital, ICU, death, and other illnesses. So I would like to begin by selecting hospital. Now let's go ahead and drag hospital to the count. And as you can see, it reflects the total number of records. Now let's go ahead and break this down by race. So let's go ahead and select race. And as you can see, it gives you a breakdown of the race based on numbers. Okay, now one thing that I do want to do, as you can look and see, it says missing and unknown. I think I would like to remove those records. I'm going to do that by adding a filter. So let's go ahead and drag race to filter. And as you can see, it adds a filter above our data. Let's get the drop down. We're going to go ahead and say select multiple items. And we're going to go ahead and deselect unknown and missing, because we want this information reflected, and if it's not available, I do not want to include it in my table. Now I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And I'm going to go ahead and drag race back to my rows. And now let's take a look at our results. We are left with 40,435 records. Okay, so I won't go through each one individually, but what I would like to do next is give a breakdown by age group. So let's go ahead and select age group. And now we get a breakdown of the age group in addition to the race. Now, some things that I have noticed on my age group is I have missing and unknown information. So again, I want to go ahead and apply a filter. Okay, so let's go ahead and select age group and let's drag it to our filter. And again, you'll see a filter in row 1. Let's go ahead and get our drop down. We'll go ahead and say select multiple. Let's go ahead and just deselect missing and NA. Let's go ahead and say OK. Okay, so now let's go ahead and drag the age group back to rows. And now we have a breakdown of the race broken down by age group. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add the sex of our patients. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add that to rows as well. And now I have the race broken down by age group and then further broken down by sex. Now this is looking a little bit busy, so what I think I want to do is take age group and change that into a column just to clean up our pivot table a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the age group and I'm going to drag it to columns. Okay, now as you can see, my age group is broken out by columns, further broken out by race. So as you can see in row 6, the American Indian, I have 6 cases. I have 1 female and 5 males. In the 10 to 19 age group, I have 15 American Indians. I have 10 females and 5 males. And then in a group of 20 to 29 years old, I have a total of 45 American Indians. I have 25 females and 20 males. Okay, so now that cleans it up nicely. And again, I'm going to scroll through and I'm going to look for my unknown or missing information, and I'm going to go ahead and filter that out. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab sex and we'll drag it to filter. And again, you see the filter in row 1. Let's go ahead and get our drop down. Let's say select multiple items. We're going to deselect missing and unknown. Now let's go ahead and say OK. Alright, now let's go ahead and drag our sex back into the rows. Okay, so I won't make any further changes to the pivot table, but I just want to give you a general idea how easy it is to condense and extract information from your data. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at the pivot table analyze tab as well as the design tab, and then we'll wrap up the lesson. Now I do want to point out that these tabs are only accessible when you are on the pivot table. If I click off of the pivot table, you will see that the Analyze tab and the Design tab is no longer accessible. Now let's go ahead and click the pivot table. And as you can see, they're now accessible again. Let's go ahead and click the Pivot Table Analyze tab. And let's look and see the options that we'll be working with. Okay, you have the pivot table name, which we did in an earlier video. You have the active field. You have insert slicer and timeline. You have data related changes. And you also have actions such as clear, select, and move. Other tools will include a pivot chart as well as the show hide buttons. Let's go ahead and look at our design tab. Now this speaks directly to the look and feel of your pivot table. We'll take a look at our layout options, which includes report layout options. We'll also discuss our pivot table style options as well as our pivot table styles. And again, this will be reviewed in videos to follow. And with that being said, I hope you found this information helpful. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the lesson. I will see you in the next video. Congratulations on completing another video and on your commitment to learning this program. I hope that you are getting the most out of our level up lessons, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next video.